Clyde. OMAD once worked for me, but it doesn't work anymore. I can't go long enough between meals. Maybe I should go to little meals. What is your answer? Maybe this will help others. Well, maybe it will. Sometimes we need reminders of why we did certain things. I once bought a flashlight called the Ultrafire 980L, and it was a great flashlight, or so the reputation had it. I got the flashlight. I ended up getting rid of it because it had an annoying flicker, but not before a number of years passed between when I forgot it and I wanted to buy it again. I remember how cool it felt in my hand, but when I repurchased it, I remembered I got rid of it because it had this annoying little flicker, and there was no way to correct it by design. Even the clones from China had too short of a base for the engine of the flashlight, the driver, and there was no way to correctly adjust it so that the wiring would allow for a secure connection. It was one of many flaws in Chinese designs. So what's the point? The point is we forget why we do things. And a lot of people who reach out to me with OMAD do so because they've come from eating little meals. And they were always taught that if you just keep the fires burning and you eat little meals throughout the day and you control your calories, you'll lose weight. Which is true, but it's kind of not true because you get an insulin reaction when you eat, even if you eat a little. And that ends up stalling weight loss to where what would take 6 months will take 3 to 4 years. It will really stall your progress. But you forgot that. You forgot the fact that you tried every diet under heaven. You tried going on crazy minimalization diets. You tried doing yoga and Pilates, and you tried all of this silly things that come with doing all of this sort of business of moderation, of trying to control and eating little bits at a time. But what you realized was it was harder, not easier that way. And so sometimes people that get frustrated with eating one meal a day turn to eating little meals a day. But they forget they came from that. They tried that already. Everybody has tried that. That used to be so popular to where you go throughout the day and you take a little plate and you have a little and you do something else, you eat a little more and you eat a little more, but then ultimately you end up not succeeding, or you succeed at less than a half a pound loss per month. And the reason for that is, again, because of insulin, but also because of the difficulty and discipline involved. And here's why it is actually more logical to eat a bunch of chips one time than to eat some chips here and some chips here and some chips here, or any food you want to go with, a pizza or lasagna or a bit of fish or whatever it is that you're hungry for. It's much harder to eat in moderation than it is to eat not at all. And that's what you forget. You get into a situation where you need to be reminded, just like I did with that flashlight, of why you initially got rid of it. So you came to OMAD, you started realizing that there are still difficulties, but it's better than going with multiple meals a day. Well, you forgot, so you have to learn the lessons again. So apply that to scenarios where you binge. And this is the same principle at work. And I've gotten contacted not only by Mr. Clyde here, who gave us the first comment that he emailed me about and wanted mention, but Taylor too. Taylor writes about his binge tendencies, and Taylor says that he is binging and he wants to consider eating because he has severe problems with binging and purging. Occasionally you get into these people that are not only bingers, but they have problems with binging and purging because they feel so ashamed and so disgusting that they actually go through with it, just like you see models on the movies where they induce vomiting. Really, really sad stuff, but it's true for a lot of people. The same principle applies there. Regardless of what level of binging you are given to, if you're out of control, you still have to remember your motives and remember why you did what you did. You got away from multiple meals because it was more efficient and you got better results. Everybody does. But now that you're free from that, the grass gets greener on the other side of the fence again. Time passes and maybe you recall some failures that you've had. Well, the problem is not with OMAD. The problem is with the fact that you want a license to binge. That's exactly what you want, because think about it. If you, right here and now, have been doing OMAD and you're having trouble and you say, well, what if I eat just a little bowl with a little bit of green beans and salad in there? Maybe just a few pieces of chicken, maybe something like that. Maybe if I eat just enough to curb my hunger, that'll be okay. But that's not what you want. That's not what you want. What you actually want is a license to binge. Because if you go and you have that little tiny pork chop or a little Jimmy Dean sausage or a small chunk of a taco and you say, I'm only going to eat that and no more, what's going to happen is you're not going to be satisfied. So out of guilt, you're going to blow your efforts and you're going to go out and binge, which is really what you wanted. And that's why binging is not metabolic. Binging is mental. And it comes about very often in old age as well as young compulsive go-getters because it's a chemical thing. You become addicted to the rush of being able to cut loose. That's why one potato chip, who eats one potato chip? Nobody. Instead, you get a bag, you finish the bag, and then if you have another one, you pop it open and you say to yourself, you know what, this isn't good. You say this while you're eating. You say, I'm going to tear apart these bags, but then I'm not going to buy them again for a while. I've got to control myself. And you give yourself that pathetic little self-talk session in the midst of eating where you say, I'm not going to do this again. I'm not going to do this again because it's not the right thing to do. And yet, your brain is acknowledging the reverse. Your brain is saying this is the proper behavior because you were allowing it. You were teaching me that this is how you get your reward. You see how bass-ackwards it is to do what we're talking about. You see how confused people get. This is a problem. This is what life does to people. It gets you confused because you became a stress eater so long ago that your brain built up chemical rewards behind overeating. So what's the result? You go 5 days on OMAD, you feel like you're making progress, and then one day comes along where for whatever reason you feel dejected and demoralized and you decide, I am owed that wonderful piece of cake. And then you realize, well, I've already blown it. I'm going to finish the cake. I'm going to do more. I'm going to eat the whole cake. And then after that, we're going to stop at Freddy's frozen custard or whatever. We're going to stop at the nearest buffet. We're going to keep going until I'm not conscious at the end of tonight. Then you spend the rest of your day working on it. And then the next day you feel almost good because you might feel terrible, but other people feel good because you feel like you got it out of your system. You didn't. You just set up another reward system that is in queue. It's like placing an order on Amazon, and then pretty soon, about depending on what you ordered, it might take 5 days to get your package. Well, then you start getting that. You say, okay, I've bought what I needed, but now you're playing that lottery. When I get home today, is the package going to be there? Is it going to be there? Is it going to be there? And then finally, you're surprised and it's there. And it's never as good when you get it as when you wanted it. Which was one of the oldest things I've said on this channel. It's better to want food than to have it because having it's never as good as wanting. That's the contradiction. So what you really don't want is moderation. For those of you a few of you who are thinking of going out there and going back to multiple little meals, that's not what you want. You want a license to binge. You want a license to cut loose. Be honest about it and quit kidding yourself. Because if you take one little cup of spaghetti and you say, this has got to last me through, I ate today, this wasn't enough, I'm going to eat now. If you try that, you're going to realize you have to have more self-control than if you just didn't eat anything, which is the light bulb moment that goes off in your mind and you finally realize, I can get it back together by staying straight and staying faithful to my OMAD plan tonight. So getting back to a situation where people think they aren't making progress on a diet. No, you weren't making progress on your old diet, which was why you found OMAD. That's why people come to this channel, is because they're fed up with the diet scenario or the hamster wheel scenario where they're going out and they're hunting a bunch of different diets and they're finding out that they're failing. They tried the low carb thing, it tore them up. They did the vegan thing and they became a hormone hurricane and became nuts and had all sorts of problems. And then they tried every combination of things and they realized it's all a game. It's a game because they were playing a game like a juvenile does. They love to play, but then they get tired of the game and pretty soon they want to go home and go to sleep because they're done playing. When you get done playing, you set up a system whereby you can keep living and eating as normally as you possibly can, and you go on. You don't play around. You get tired of that. The less you think about food, the better it is, which is why I've said from the beginning of this channel, the more you're thinking about dieting, that's the ultimate contradiction. Because when you're thinking about how good your food is going to taste tomorrow, when you're thinking about how good your body is going to be when you're at your goal weight, all of that is great, but it's not actually real. It's like talking about OMAD versus doing it. It's easy to be motivated to talk about it. It's easy to hear me lecture to you on why you should do it, but it's not easy to do. When you're in the mood to binge and there's nothing there to binge, and you're fighting that war within your mind saying, should I allow myself to binge into this cake and tacos versus I've already eaten today and I can have some tacos and cake tomorrow. Be honest with yourself. What is it you really want? You want a license to binge. That's exactly what you want. Don't pretend that you want moderation, because you don't. If you had wanted moderation, you would have had it. You'd have done that years ago. You'd have been able to eat and not drink years ago. You'd have been able to do everything. It's like an alcoholic that says, I can quit when I want. You love the thought of quitting, Mr. Alcoholic, not quitting, because otherwise you'd have done it, but you didn't do it. So why are you here? It doesn't matter how you found this channel. For my newer viewers who are emailing me today, be real with yourself. Don't worry about it. Everybody who's watching this, however you found this channel, it doesn't matter. But you need to be mature about the way you're eating. The problem is not going to go away because it would have gone away long ago. You obviously got to a weight that you don't like because you're watching this. Most of you, nearly all of you are watching this because you want to lose weight. But you cannot play around. Every time you binge because you're playing a game with yourself and you're not being real. You've set up a pattern in your mind where your mind gets a reward for when you do that. You haven't done the reverse. You haven't accepted empty is the new full. Otherwise, you'd realize you have it all. You have it all being empty. When you're sitting alone and you're starving and you want to eat, you've got it made, man. You are living off of yourself. You are the closest you can ever be to a deity right then. You are a self-sustaining being. That's the power. You're going to get to eat again. You're a human. You're going to have to eat. But when you do, you should recognize the truth that I'm telling you here. Be honest with the binge transaction. It's always a bad deal because all you're doing is teaching yourself that eventually you're going to do it again. And you're not being honest about why you want to do it. So there is no easy way. There is no easy way. The harder you are struggling on OMAD, the better results you will have. It's that way because it's transactional. If you put more in, you get more out. Don't let me talk like a guru guy who is talking about law of productivity, but it's true. So I'm going to end the video here. Be honest about your food transactions. Don't kid yourself. Don't say I'm going to go out and buy a bunch of stuff because I need to be healthy. It's what your body's trying to do all of that to get to the goal of you eating. So people overeat on healthy food and junk food and mock meats and all of this crap. They don't do it for any other reason than the fact that their brain is trying to work around, through their dishonesty, a way to keep you eating. There's no other way. There's OMAD. For those of you who are watching this channel, the reason you started watching, the reason you stayed subscribed, even if you didn't agree with some of my content sometimes, you come back to the same thing because we're not playing games anymore. We grew up. We realized that that was not the right thing to do. The right thing to do is to be honest, and either you have a goal or you don't. Either you're going to make the goal or you're not.